Laudetur Jesus Christus. I thought today we'd speak about, on our daily reflection, St. Augustine's concept of beauty. What is beautiful, and what do we mean when we say that something is beautiful? And what is the true meaning of beauty in light of time and eternity? And something St. Augustine, his entire life, was searching after a love that could hold him. An absolute love. And something that he found was that with every new experience of falling in love that he had in his life, it was always like water running through his fingers. He never could hold on to it. And he said that it was the same phenomenon with beauty. That everything has a time where it becomes beautiful. Before it's beautiful and it grows into a perfect bloom, and then it begins to lose that original beauty that it had. And so he's seen a connection here both between human intimacy and also just the experience of beauty to the human person, that both of them participate in something beyond that they grow into and then they lose at one point. And it was that experience of constantly searching for this absolute beauty that would lead him to finally look to God. And at one point, I want to just read a lot of his own words from his own confessions, because you really can't say anything as well as St. Augustine himself said, especially when you're trying to talk about what he said. So in his confessions, he says this to the Lord after this experience of looking for love and beauty outside of him. "Turn us, O God of hosts, show us the light of your countenance, and we shall be whole. For which way soever the soul of man turns itself, unless it turns towards thee, it is even riveted into sorrows. Yes, though the soul settles itself upon beautiful objects without outside of thyself and outside of itself, which beauties were no beauties at all, unless they were from thee. Yes, these things rise and set, and by rising they begin to have being. They grow up, that they may attain perfection, which having attained, they wax old and wither. Though all grow not old, yet all must wither. Therefore, when they spring up and tend towards a being, look how much more haste they make to be, so much the more they make not to be. This is the law of them." It sounds it's very poetic language, as is customary with Augustine, but what he's pointing to is just the general phenomenon that we all see, that everything has a time of growing into its perfect perfection of itself, whether it be a fruit or a tree or a human being. You're growing into what we would call, the prime years of your life. And then he says all things grow old and wax wither. And so then after that, as fast as they're growing into the beauty, then they begin to lose that, right? And their form changes. So he says there must be an absolute beauty that they're participating in. And he says that the more that the soul, so as human beings, the more that we fall in love with the transitory beauties around us, and we try to cling to them, that we ourselves actually pass away with them. It's like the more you hold on to a ship that's going down, it's slowly breaking down and going like the Titanic. You hold on to the Titanic because of all the things that were inside of it. Well, it's going down to the bottom of the ocean. At some point you have to let go and get into a safety raft, something that's going to remain on the surface. And he says that this is what happens when we cling too tightly to the beauties that we see around us. It actually corrodes our souls, because we're made for the infinite and absolute beauty of God. And so our constant temptation is take that absolute longing for God and perfect beauty and seek that answer completely in human beings and in the world, rather than recognizing that they just are a small taste of what God has to offer him in himself. And so all the beauties of the world are supposed to lead us to God, as it's going from the gift to the giver. So I recognize that these are as beautiful as they participate in God, but they're not God. So he goes on from there. Thus much hast thou given to them, because all creatures are parcels of things which are not exact, all at one time, but by which, by going and coming, do altogether make up the whole universe, whereof they are the parcels. Lo, even thus is our speech. So that he's going to compare even the way that I'm talking right now, which is scattered because it's Augustine and it's so hard to even read straight. But he says how even our speech is broken up, words into syllables, letters into syllables, into words, into sentences, into paragraphs. And each time I'm speaking, you're getting a little bit of what I'm saying until you get the whole. And he's saying that in a sense, this is how we experience the whole world around us. Lo, even thus is our speech delivered by sounds significant, for it will never be a perfect sentence unless one word gives way when it hath sounded his part, that another may succeed it. And by them let my soul praise thee, O God, creator of all things. But yet let not my soul be fastened unto these things with the glue of love through the senses of my body. So he's saying all the words must pass away so that the higher sentence can come forth and the general message that is being proclaimed. And so he's saying, don't let my soul, by the glue of love, be fastened to these transitory things, because then I'll never get the full message. And what is the full message? It's always God saying, come back to me. I am your lover. I am the source of all that is beautiful and good. And the great temptation is to stop along the words along the way, the creatures. And when we do that, he says our soul atrophies in a sense. So he goes on. For these things go whither they go, that they might no longer be, and they cleave the soul in sunder with most pestilent desires, even because the soul earnestly desires to be one with them, and loves finally to rest in these things which she loves. But in those things she finds no settlement, which are still fleeing, because they stand not, they flee away. And who is he that can follow them with the senses of his flesh? Yes, who is able to overtake them when they are hard by him? For the sense of our flesh is slow, even because it is the sense of our flesh, and itself has its own measure. So he's again pointing to the fact that we long for rest. As human beings, we're constantly longing, we're filled with desires, but our desires are meant to be satisfied. And so we're always trying to find a place where we can rest our weary hearts, in a sense. I remember there's a romantic movie I saw years ago, and a couple was on my first date, and they're just having a really beautiful time together, and the woman started crying, and the man said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "This is just one of those times I wish that I could freeze this moment and hold on to it forever. Like, I don't want this moment to ever pass away." And in a sense, we're all looking for that, the sense of highest joy and peace and love and beauty that just remains. And yet, as long as we live, everything continues to pass away. And we have the choice to get stuck on the individual creature, the individual experience, so much that we do not hear the full message coming to us from God to return back to Him. Or we step back and we receive everything. Everything is a gift from God. All the beauty around me, and it comes and it goes. The relationships will come and they'll spring up, and at times they go. That's actually the hardest thing for mothers, because no one loves more than a woman, because they have the gift of just giving themselves completely to what they love. But it's also very dangerous, because no woman loves anything more than her own child. And one of the most difficult things for any mother is letting go of their child when it's their time to kind of grow up and go into the world. So their love itself can be so strong that it makes them hold on to the child in a way that doesn't let them pass forward. And the more that we can see, well, everything is a gift. Everything is a participation in the perfect beauty, the perfect love that is in God. And everything's a sign of his love for us. When I can see it that way, look at the source rather than the individual things that come along the way that manifest his beauty, well, then we're free to receive it without trying to grasp at it. And that was the whole fight of St. Augustine his entire life, to go from seeking the beauty outside of him to finally taking rest in his own soul, where he said he could finally find the peace of Christ there. And may it be for all of us. We'll just end by reading one more thing from him that kind of summarizes this idea. Out upon these intricate ways, woe unto that audacious soul of mine, which hoped that had it forsaken thee, O God, it should have had some better thing. Turned it hath and turned again upon backside and belly, yet found all places to be hard, and that thou alone art her only rest. And behold, thou art near at hand, and from our wretched errors you deliver us, and you settle us in thine own ways, and you comfort us, and you say to us, run on, I will carry you. Yes, I will bring you to your journey's end, and there also will I carry you.